We are learning JavaScript, and today is the lecture number 12 in 12th week, especially part A. We are learning this JS tutorial, JavaScript tutorial. Today we are learning this DOM section. Let's start from this one. It's the HTML DOM. DOM means Document Object Model. JavaScript can access and change all elements of an HTML document. The HTML DOM, Document Object Model, is like this. This is HTML DOM tree of object. Document is the highest root node. This HTML is root node in this document, and hierarchically next one is depending upon the document that may be different. This one is showing some example. Some element. This is node, body node and head node. And in this head node, title node is there, and we can see some title, and that is text node we learn. And this one is body node, and this one is containing many elements. This one is showing some example for that. Element node and A and element node H1. Those HTML element or HTML tags, those nodes for each, for this element body, those are belonging to that. And this one is containing some text, then this one is called text node. Okay, those things will be explained more in detail. Let's look at this one first. It's the object model. JavaScript gets all power it needs to create dynamic HTML. Thus, this one is explained about that. JavaScript can change all HTML elements in the page, and also this one can change all HTML attributes in the page. And also, even the CSS styles can be changed. Even the removal of existing HTML elements and attributes, those things is possible. Thus, removal is possible. And addition of new HTML element and attributes, that addition is also possible. And some event handling, that is possible. Thus, JavaScript can react to all existing HTML events in the page. And JavaScript can create new HTML events in the page. In this section, we learn about this. How to change the content of HTML elements, and how to change the style, CSS style of HTML elements, and how to react to HTML DOM event using the event handling code, and how to add and delete HTML elements. First, what is the DOM? DOM is the Document Object Model, and that is a World Wide Web Consortium standard. And DOM defines a standard for accessing documents. What is the HTML DOM? We will focus on that. HTML DOM is the standard object model and the program interface for HTML. Thus, its object, as we learned in the previous chapter about the object, we can handle this object with some JavaScript codes, and we learn. HTML elements as object, and the properties of all HTML elements, the methods to access all HTML elements, and events For all HTML elements, those things are defined. And in summary, the HTML DOM is a standard for how to get, change, add, or delete HTML elements. Okay, first, HTML DOM methods. Let's learn about this. As we learned, methods actions we can perform on HTML elements, and HTML DOM methods we learn. And HTML DOM properties are values that we can set or change. And we are dealing with the DOM programming interface, and this property and the method, those are related to this programming interface. And the property is a value that we can get or set. And the method is an action, as we learned. We can do something. Example, let's look at this example. As we learned already in the previous chapter, this one is showing in detail about this. Here, this one is the method belonging to this document object. With this ID name, we can get that element. And this one is the property belonging to that object, and we can change to this text string. In this way, we can change that contents. Here, get element by ID is a method, and in HTML, this one is a property. Usually, and the most common way to access an HTML element is to use the ID of the element to access uniquely, because this ID name is being used uniquely for a specific element. In the example above, get element by ID method used ID demo, the ID name is demo, to find that specific element. After that, we can apply. Using this inner HTML property, we can change that contents. Okay, this one is about JavaScript HTML DOM document. HTML DOM document object is the owner of all other objects in our web page. And let's look at this table. Finding HTML elements, we can use this method. In this way, we are very familiar to this one, because in some other chapters, this one is being used a lot. Document get element by ID. With this ID name, we can access uniquely some specific element. Find an element by element ID. And even though we have not used this one, we can access many tags that is element, and those are elements we can access by tag name. Also, class name we can access using this method. Find the elements by class name, that is possible with this method. Changing HTML elements, we can use this property name in HTML. This one is containing the contents. Thus, if we are changing it to some other contents, then that will be replaced. We can change. Even this attribute, with a new value we can assign, then we can change the attribute value. Also, property of the CSS we can change to new style. In that case, we can describe like this: element name and the style and some property. With new style here, then that will be assigned to this property as a value. Then it is changing the style. Attribute can change, that can be changed to this method set attribute, and in that case attribute name and the value, attribute value should be described here. Then we can change that attribute value of an HTML element. Also, in terms of addition and deletion of elements, we can do that due to this method: create element, remove element, append that child. Depending upon that name of that method that is self-explaining of that functionality, we can do that: create, remove, append, and replace. We'll see some examples using these methods in next chapters. Document to the right. With this text string, we can show out on the screen as an output stream. And we can add event handlers. That event handler is a JavaScript code that is handling depending upon that event. And event is that is happening when user is doing something or something is happening. That is called event. Depending upon that event situation, we want to provide some action depending upon that event. That is called event handling code. That is written with the JavaScript code. Finding HTML objects, and here about this, in 1998, the first HTML DOM level 1. DOM level 1 is like this. This is DOM level. Those are defined. And 11 HTML objects and object collections and properties, those are defined in 1998. And those are still valid in HTML5. Later, in HTML DOM level 3, more object collections and properties were added. Here you can see, and this is a reference, you can refer to them. And here, this applet that is not being used, that is called deprecated and disappeared and removed in HTML5. And this obsolete, this is obsolete, and you can refer to others just for reference. Let's move to the next. Okay, this one is explained about HTML DOM elements and how to find and access HTML elements in an HTML page. First, to apply some action or effect or dynamic effect using JavaScript, we should find first some specific element or elements. Then we can apply to those selected or those found elements. Thus, this one is explained about how to find those elements. With JavaScript, we want to manipulate HTML elements. Thus, we need to find the elements first. And there are several ways here. Finding HTML elements by ID, as we learned, even with this tag name, even by this class name, and even by these CSS selectors. And later we learn about this HTML object collections. By this one, we can find some HTML elements. Then we can apply some dynamic effect. Later we learn about it. Finding HTML elements by ID, as we learned already. ID name, using that unique ID name, we can access some specific element, and we can use this variable name for that. This one is the way how to find HTML elements by tag name. The method name is different here. Get element by tag name. And tag name is P here. Then here we can observe that many P elements are related to this one, because that is not unique. Depending upon the document, that may be different, but usually we may use many P tags here. We are using here 3 P pairs here. Thus, if we are accessing, we are finding get element by tag name P, then this one is the collection of that P elements. Thus, this seems to be an array. Thus, we can access some specific element belonging to this collection. With this index number, we can access specifically. This one is showing this result. X0 means X is this one, and there are several P's, actually 3 P pairs here. The first one is 0, X0, index number 0, thus that is about this. And second one, that is index number 1, that is about this. And the third one, that is index number 2, will be this. Thus this one is simply accessing the first one, and the inner HTML, that is the contents, this text string, that will be assigned to the demo here, that is third one. And actually initially it was empty. There no character string here, empty, and this one will be shown there like this. Okay, let's learn again here, and let's try to change this one. Instead of this, among 0, 1, let's try to use this one, 1, instead of 0. Then let's look at. Then you can see this one is showing this character string and concatenated to 1 until here. That is this character string. And the following one, this one is the result, concatenated one, that is accessed with this array index number. It is not actually array, but it seems to be array-like. Thus we can access with this index number, but this is not pure array. It is array-like. Thus number 1 is about this. This contents, this example demonstrates like that, and this bold here, get element by tag name, those bold character string, and that character string is shown here. That is the result. Okay, let's move to next. Okay, another way, finding HTML elements by class name. The method name is here. Get elements by class name. Excuse me. Get elements by class name here. Class name is here intro. Okay, let's look at this real example. Here, class name, this one is containing the class name intro, and also this one is using the class name intro. There are two p elements. Those are containing class name intro. And here we are accessing it's this method, get element by class name intruders. We can access these two p pairs, and this one is for that. This one is not unique one, and each one with this index number, even though that is not a pure array, we can access it to this index number because that is array-like. First one, and you can see the DOM is very useful. Okay, you can, if you are changing that index number to 1 instead of 0, then you can see the next contents will be shown there. Okay, finding HTML elements by CSS selectors. This class name that will be used, as we learned already in the CSS tutorial. This class name will be used for CSS style, and this one is the example for that. If that is belonging to that p element here, intro, and we are accessing that x here, this one is specifically using this prefix p dot. That means p element, and p elements are here, and among them to the class name intro, and two elements are related to this one. We can access each one with this index number, as we did already. Finding HTML elements by HTML object collections. Here we have form. Okay, let's look at this real example. Okay, let's look at this real example with this form element. Here we can access this input here, input value. Those are initial values, and even this submit, the value is submit here. There's three input elements are being used in this form. First one, the initial value is $, and second one, the third one is submit. That those are initial values for that. And if we are clicking this click button, then this my function, that JavaScript function, will be executed. Then this my function, after clicking, this one is accessing those input values, and X is the form collection here, HTML elements, form, and 3 input elements are belonging to that, and we can access each one with these elements. There's x equal this form 1, that is this one, form 1. Belonging to that form, 3 input elements. Each element we can access with these elements and with this index number. Even though this is not in the array, it is array-like, thus we can access. And each value belonging to each element we can access repeatedly. Thus we can run through all elements value, and we can concatenate together. Thus we can show out this Donald Duck submit, Donald Duck and submit. Even this one is the value, as we observed here. Those are shown here as an output character string. Okay, you can refer to others. Okay, let's move to the next. And this one is showing how to change HTML. Changing the HTML output stream. For example, let's look at this real example here. This one is showing out that the date information here using this write method, document.write, like this. We can show out current time, today, and the time. There are several ways to show out their output, and this document.write is one of them. And in terms of the document write, we should be careful about something. This one is for that. It will overwrite the document. That means if there is something as contents on the screen, this one is overwriting. If we are using this document write, then the previous contents will be gone away. Because that is that should be careful. Changing the HTML content in other way. Document get element by ID, as we learned already, and as we used already. In the HTML property name, in HTML, we can use this one to show new contents, like this. And similar one, but this one is accessing ID name here, and this old heading will be replaced to this new contents. Even the HTML attribute value that can be changed, and this one is the syntax for that. If we are using attribute name here, and if we are using some attribute value here, then this new attribute value will be used for this attribute. For example, as we learned already in the HTML tutorial, image to show some source, we are using the source attribute, and instead of this initial source image, we can replace with a new image. Then, okay, initially that image was like this. Let's try to erase, cut, and you can see this one is the initial one, and if we are using this JavaScript, and this one is using this attribute name and to this attribute value, and the new attribute value, that is the landscape image, it is replacing like this. Okay, you can try others. Okay, how to change CSS, and this one is the way, that is the syntax for that. We should use this style, and following property name, we can replace, we can change with a new style. Here, property value, that is about new style, and this is the style, and we are using this property color, and we are replacing with this property value blue, then that will be changed like this. That is the result after changing. Here, style.color blue. This one is changing the P2 second paragraph. Here, you can change the first one, then you can like this. Even font family, depending upon that property name, you can change that property font size like this. Using event, HTML DOM allows us to execute code when an event occurs. That means event handling, that is possible. Events are generated by the browser when some things happen to HTML elements, and we can detect, and that is event, on event, something. Depending upon that event, the name is different. If that is click event, then on click, attribute name is on click. If, okay, mouse over, then on mouse over, that is the attribute name for that. If the page has loaded, that event is detected, and we can use the on load event attribute name for that. Okay, here let's look at this example. This one is using on click, attribute name is on click, and this one is event handling code, that is JavaScript code for handling that event. Here, click me, then as soon as I am clicking this one, then this on click event is happening, click event is happening, then this on click, this is attribute showing this click event, and click, this is click event handling code, JavaScript code. This one is single statement, thus we can omit, but if there is something more code in terms of code, then we can divide them into this semicolon. Okay, we can omit, but let's put in this semicolon intentionally, still same. Thus with this one, we can change that the CSS style and the property color, and this is the property value for that. Okay, you can try others. DOM animation. Even animation is possible, but in terms of animation, CSS animation will be better. Thus I am recommending that CSS animation, as we learned already. But even with this HTML element and JavaScript, we can implement that animation effect. Then how to create HTML animations with JavaScript, we'll learn. This one is very simple example for that. Okay, this one. Okay, this is the, okay, let's try to reduce this one to see the whole image for that, to observe that animation effect. Okay, this one is the HTML elements, and this is the CS style defined, and this one is the body area, and you can see this my first JavaScript animation. This one is heading statement, and here div, two div pairs here, but one is embedded, and this one is div, ID name is container, and this animate is belonging to that and embedded there, this one. First one is this one, and this one is embedded in that div area. That is the animate, the name is animate, ID name is animate. And you can see here how to implement. This one is not implementing any dynamic effect with JavaScript, and this one is showing the initial image to apply that animation effect with JavaScript without here. This one is not showing that JavaScript code for that animation effect, and we look at, and we are using this animation code. Okay, I'll try to enlarge first. Animation code. JavaScript animations are done by programming gradual changes in an element style, and we are using timer to move slowly depending upon the timer interval value. We can see some animation effect, and that because that is moving slowly depending upon that timer interval. That is JavaScript function, and we look at this one is that set interval frame and 5. This object will, that is moving every 5 seconds. That the frame, this is the function name. This function will be called every 5 milliseconds. Please keep in mind the unit is millisecond here, because every 5 milliseconds this frame function will be called repeatedly. And in some condition that will be finished, else that will be executed repeatedly, and it is showing the animation effect. There's this one is JavaScript code for that animation effect. Here, position, initial position value is 0, and that will be changed slowly, and depending upon the time interval, set interval, and this frame is, as we learned already in the previous section here. This one will be called repeatedly every 5 milliseconds. Every 5 milliseconds, that value will be changed, the position value, in terms of pixel. And horizontally, vertically, that is apart from the top, that is apart from the left side. And we can show this animation effect here. Okay, I'll try to reduce this one to see whole animation effect. Okay, let's try to click again. You can see if you are changing this one instead of 5 slowly, you can 20. You can see the animation effect that is slower, because that number, interval number, that is 20 milliseconds. Also, you can implement other effect. Here I multiplied with this number 2, then this one will be executed. That is moving faster, like this. Depending upon that value, you can see other effect. Thus you can see how it is working. Okay, left in nothing. Let's move to next. This one is about the HTML DOM events. Event handling is showing dynamic effect, as we observed already in other chapters, and this one is explaining a little more in detail about that, how to handle that object and how to apply that event handling if there is something happened. That is called event. HTML DOM allows JavaScript to react to HTML event like this. My mouse is over here, then you can see some change. The statement is being changed. Click me. I'll click this one, then you can see. Depending upon the click, you can see. You can see this one is another effect using event handling. And this one's using click event handling codes that is written with the JavaScript code. Reacting to event. First, this is the event name, and we are attaching this prefix 1. And following one is event name, and the JavaScript code will be executed. There are so many different kinds of events. So some events are enumerated here. When a user clicks the mouse, when a web page has loaded, and when an image has been loaded, mouse moves over an element, and input field is changed. Sometimes HTML form is submitted. All of them, those are all events. When a user strokes a key, okay, let's look at this example first. Okay, one click. If I am clicking this one, then this dot inner HTML, that will be changed. The contents will be changed. This is this H1 object, and the contents for that will be changed like this. And that is the new contents for that. There's this one is on-click attribute dealing with click event, and this one is event handling code, JavaScript code, and this that can be, this semicolon can be omitted because that is single statement. And here many other statements can be added. In that case, we should use this separator semicolon. But here we can omit, or we can use. Still same result will be shown here. Okay, after closing some open tabs, let's continue. Another example. Here, click on this text, then you can see this one is function, and that will be invoked when click is happening, click event is happening, and this change text, and that will be called. And this means the h1 at object, and that will be passed to here, and belonging to that the h1 object, the property in HTML, that means that contents will be changed to this. And the event attribute. Okay, this one is showing some example. This one is showing some example using event attribute. Okay, here on click, then this display date, this function, JavaScript function, this one will be invoked. Then this date is showing today, and current time here. Okay, this one is another example, similar. This one is showing similar result, but this one is implemented in different way. This one is simply the function name here, and that is assigned to this on-click attribute. Then this one will be executed. There's in different ways we can implement the similar result. In the previous example, a function name display date is assigned to an HTML element. This one, ID name is. Okay, this one is another example using on node event. And this one is event handling, JavaScript code for that. On change event, there are many different kinds of events, and depending upon that event, the name, attribute name is different. This one is change event. This on change event is often used in combination with the validation of input fields, like this. This one is useful for that specific application. Okay, here enter your name here. That is about this input element, and here something change, and after typing in some character string here, and if I am focusing with my mouse other area, then you can see as soon as I'm focusing other area, then it is being executed, it is being changed. There's this on change event handling code, my function. That function will be invoked, and this one is simply getting that value here, input value here, that will be changed to uppercase using this to uppercase method, like this. Thus, in this way, with this event handling JavaScript code, we can show many different kinds of dynamic effects, various effects we can show. Here, another event, mouse over and the mouse out event. Here, my mouse is over here, then you can see. My mouse out, then you can see. Okay, you can see the source code for that. Also, mouse down or mouse up, depending upon that. Depending upon that specific event, we can show. Even this click event also, click me, you can see. Okay, you can try others. This one is about the DOM event listeners. Sometimes we can create intentionally event with JavaScript, even though that on event that attribute is not being implemented initially, we can implement with this JavaScript, not using HTML attribute one event. Using this JavaScript, we can implement that. How to implement? If we are using this add event listener and some event name here, there are many different kinds of event here. Click event, then this one is being executed as an event handler code. Thus, add event listener method attaches an event handler to the specified element, and we look at that example later. If we want to remove that event listener, we can remove with this remove event listener method. Then we cannot use that event handler. Here, syntax is for that. There are 3 parameters in this add event listener method. First one is event. What kind of event? For example, click or mouse down, mouse over. And second one is the event handling function that will be called or invoked when the event is happening. Third one can be omitted, and we need more explanation to understand better about this. Initially, that is the first Boolean value first, and depending upon the Boolean value false or true, depending upon that, we can fix the order of that running. I will show some example that will be better for understanding. Okay, after running some basic things, let's focus on that third parameter, that Boolean value. Okay, let's focus on more primitive concept here. Add an event handler to an element. In this way, we can add this event handling code to this element, and this one is event handling code for that. Okay, here, even though here we are not using here button, my button here, there's no event attribute, event related attribute, for example on click, those are not being used here. But to this JavaScript code, only to this JavaScript code we can implement that event, because this added event listener, this one is adding the click event to this specifically selected element, my button. ID name is my button, that is selected, get element by ID, and that object is selected, and here that click event is attached here, added, and this is event handling code for that. Okay, I am clicking this one, and you can see this alert statement is shown here. As soon as I'm clicking, that means on click event is happening, then this event handling code that is being executed, and this is the alert statement, hello world. And at the same time, we can add many event handlers to the same element. Add event listener method allows us to add many events to the same element without overwriting existing elements, without overwriting existing events. For example, here, even to the same element, we can add many same or different event handling code. Here, same event, even though this one is same click event, we can click here. Then you can see hello world that is being shown. The first one is, okay, I'll show you later. And okay, if I am clicking, then first one, my function, this one will be executed. You can see my function. Whenever I'm clicking this one, two event handling code that will be executed. First one is my function and alert statement, hello world, that will be shown. And let's change this one to understand better. Okay, that is not being changed. Okay, I'll try to show you again. Okay, let me try to change. Okay, here let's use this one-on-one because that is the first one. This one is second one. And run. Then if I am clicking this one, two events handling code. This one first, second one, this one. Okay, this one. You can see number one, hello world. If I am clicking this OK, then next will be executed. Thus you can see 222. This one will be executed. In that order, that will be executed. Thus even to the same element, we can apply two event handling code in this way. Even different event can be added to the same event, same element, different event, same element to the same element. Here, mouse over. Here, first one is mouse over. You can see mouse over, mouse out, mouse over. Clicking, then you can see. I will try to reduce to observe whole event message, event handling messages. Okay, my mouse is over here, then you can see my mouse over. My mouse is out, then you can see mouse out. At the bottom you can see the bottom event handling statement that is shown by the event handling code. And I'm clicking here, then you can see that is clicked. Thus even to the same element we can implement many different kinds of event handling code like this. Okay, I will try to enlarge again. Add an event handler to the window object. Okay, this one is about this. Okay, this size here, event is this size. This size means I am trying to enlarge, then that is this size event is happening. Then this random number generated number, randomly generated this random number will be assigned to this one. Thus we can see this random number generated. Thus you can see. And sometimes we want to pass some parameter values, then we can do that in this way. First, if I'm clicking, then you can see add event listener here. This one is containing some function here, and this one is this one, my function, and this one can handle that passed parameter here, that passed argument here. Thus in this way the parameter p1, p2 that can be passed. This example demonstrates how to pass parameter values when using the add event listener method. Okay, and let's move to next. Event bubbling or event capturing. Bubbling, think about the bubble, and the bubble is, think about some water, sea, and from the deep side of the sea, the bubble is generated, and that is going up to the surface of the water. That is going up, and there's different thing is, think about the direction. First, the bubble is inside, and that is going out, that is going to the outer side. There's first one is inside, and second one is in the outer side. That is the order, and that is the different one is in reverse way. Capturing, when you are trying to capture some bug or capture something, then the direction is from outside to inside, right? Thus that is reversed. Objects, they are different, opposite direction. This bubble is from inside to outside. Event capturing is from outside to inside. This one is the showing some order. Which one is executed first in terms of that event handling. And I'll show you more with some examples. There are two ways of event propagation in the HTML DOM, bubbling and capturing. And in the bubbling, the innermost element event is handled first, and then the outer. The P elements click event is handled first, then the div element click event. If the div element is containing P element. Similarly, but in opposite direction, in the capturing, the outermost element event is handled first, then the inner one, from outside to inside. This outside is div element, inside is P element, because P element is embedded in the div element. And we look at the same and more detailed explanation with the source code. And that is about this, user capture. If that is not described, that means default is first. First is bubbling. If that is true, then that means that is capturing. Okay, let's look at this one, and we learn with this repetition, with this example here. Okay, we will look at two examples here, and here two div pairs. This one is first one, and div, and the inside that embedded one is P pairs, P element. Div element is containing these P elements. Same, this div element is containing this P element. First one is about the bubbling example. If I am clicking here, then this one is belonging to the P element as well as to the div element. Then which one is executed in terms of the event handling code? First, this one is my P1. This is my P1, and outside is my div1. The second one is my P2. The ID name of this P element is my P2. The ID name of this second div pair, that is my div2. And we are learning first this one. This one is about the bubbling example. If I am clicking this my P1, as soon as I am clicking, also I am clicking my div1. Why? Because this one is belonging to this. my div1 because this one is embedded there. Then the question is, which event handling will be executed first here? If this my P1 is, that event handling is, code is this, you click the right element. I will change this one. This is about P, there's P. This outside is about T, div, there's div, like this. First one is P. Okay, I'll show only one capital P. If I'm clicking this, you can see, and the event handling code is showing this alert message. You click the right space. Okay, I'll show you again after reducing a little bit. Okay, I'll try to execute again. Okay, from the beginning, I'll try to show you again. It is not showing properly. There's okay. This one's the example. Okay, we observed this one already. Let's look at this one. We are not running. I was a little bit confused. We are now using this one. Okay, this one. Okay, let's look at this one first. Then there may be a better understanding. My div1, my div2. These two div pairs here. My div1 and my div2, and that the style is defined here, and the inside embedded P pairs here, those styles are defined here, and so simple here. Also this one, P2, my P2, that is defined also here, and this one is the first one. Let's focus on the first one first. My div1 is here, and this P bubbling here, that is the H2 character string here, and the P element is this one, and the contents is clicking here. If I'm clicking here, you can see you click the orange element. Let's click again. I'll show you again from the beginning. I'll click, then you click the white element. If I click this OK button, then we can see the next message. You click the orange element. Thus we observe two messages, two alert statements. First one is executed the first time. That is about this. Second one is executed second time. Later, that is executed. We can change that order. This one is the bubbling effect. Inside first and outside, because that is defined here. Let's look at my P1. Add event listener. This one is inside message. You click the right element. This one is next one, outside. Thus this is bubble, like inside first and the second one later. This outside, that will be executed. Thus the bubbling effect is, the order is from inside to outside. That's it. My div. But here that order is different because that is capture. This one is using capture. Same, we are using the same style here. Same. But this one is using different parameter value, true. Previous case, this one is using false. If that is false, then the default is also, even though we are not using this one, that will be false because that is default. Default is bubbling. Inside one is executed first and outside later. But this one is capturing, then outside will be executed first. That means this outside message that will be shown first. You click the orange element like this. That is showing this one. This one. This is one will be executed first. div. My div, and inside later that will be shown here. You click the white space. The order is different, right? That is in opposite order. That is different from the previous one. Okay, I'll show you again. I will execute again with a different message here. This one is P. This one is second one is div because that is div. Then you can see. Also this one is P. Part 2. P. Oops. Second one, and this one is div. Second one. Thus I changed a little bit the message, thus we can see better. Okay, here first one, I'm clicking this one, then you can see P, that is executed first, inside first, and the next one is, oops, that is not shown here. It is not showing properly. Okay, here div second one shown here, and next one I click here, then outside capture mode, outside is executed first. There's this one, after that second one inside. The execution order is different. That's the meaning of that the parameter. Use capture. Depending upon that, the true or false, that is Boolean value. The result will be like that. That is about the order of that execution of that event handling. Let's move to the next. Okay, HTML DOM navigation. Due to the HTML DOM, we can navigate the node tree using node relationships. DOM nodes, I will go in fast mode because we spend a lot of time already. DOM nodes, this is DOM tree, and depending upon our HTML document, we are using many different elements. Depending upon that elements, the DOM tree will be different, and this one is showing one example. The entire document is a document node, and every HTML element is an element node. Element, we learned already. Node, tag, that is node. Body node, a tag element node, h1 node. And here, we should be careful about this. This is the real example. Let's assume we are using this document composed of these HTML elements that we can draw this DOM tree, and we can understand better about that node relationships. Here, HTML is root element, and here head element and body element. Those relationship is brother and sister, the sibling. That means brother and sister relationship. Sibling. And those here, H head element and body element, those are children node of this HTML element. This is the parent element for head element and body element. And this is the poster child. Head element is the poster child node, and body is the last child or second child node. This is the example using this very simple document. Here this one is explaining about that, as I explained already. HTML is the root node, and HTML has no parents. HTML is the parent of head and body nodes, and head is the first child of HTML node, body is the last child of HTML node, and head has one child. And we should be careful about this. Head. Here, let's look at title. It is easy to understand that this title is belonging to this head, but this title is containing one node that is called the text node. This DOM tutorial. Here, title has one child, a text node, DOM tutorial. This, even though it doesn't seem to be node, it is a node called text node. There's here title is containing one child, that is text node, and also H1 is containing one child node, that is text node. Also P is containing one child node, that is text node. We should be careful about that. And we can navigate between nodes. We can use the following node properties to navigate between nodes with JavaScript. Still we are learning JavaScript, and with the JavaScript we can navigate through different nodes. Parent node, child node, and there is some node number. Depending upon that, this seems to be like array index, but that is not pure array. Even though that is not pure array, we can use this index number. First child, last child, we can use this node property name, next sibling, and the previous sibling. This is the example for that. Okay, let's look at some example. I'm asking you to focus on the examples. If some contents are very complicated, then please focus on that example with some source code. That may be better for understanding. Also, even for preparing the online quiz test or final exam. And I will try to focus on that if possible. Document get element by ID number 02 here. The contents will be here. That will be assigned to this one. That's my first page. This one is assigned. Initially that was empty, but this one is newly assigned to that. Here, in other way, we can first child and node value with this property name we can assign. Thus we can get a similar result, same result actually. Here, this first child means this one, and the node value with this property name we can assign this value to here. The second paragraph contents here, that is shown there. Another way, using this index number, we can access the first one and node value, that property name. Okay, you can refer to others. Okay, node name. Property specifies the name of a node. Node name is read-only. And node name is an element node is the same as the tag name. Here, get element by ID. And we can use this one. And here, node name. Property. This one is property of this ID01. Node name is this tag name, element name. Thus the H1 is shown here. But that is changed to capital letter instead of this upper lowercase one. This one is being changed to uppercase character. Like this. Node name always contains the uppercase tag name of an HTML element. Node value property. This is node type property. Previous owner's node value property, and there is no example for that. And node type property here. And the type is, node type is number. And this one is just for reference. Element node is type number 1, attribute node number 2, text node number 3, and so on. You can refer to this just for reference. And this one is about HTML DOM elements nodes. We can add and remove nodes with JavaScript. We can handle. We can create new HTML elements or new HTML nodes. And to this create text node method, but our actual built-in method name is append child. Let's look at this real example, that may be clear to understand. Here, initially there were only 2 paragraphs, this one and this. But to this JavaScript, new p pair, the result is this. That is appended. How that was appended? In this way. First, we are creating p elements because that will be the p element here. And we can create this new p object, p element here. And also we should create the contents. This is text node. In this way, create text node. And there's no relationship at this moment, independent. Thus, that should be belonging to that. Thus, pair, that means p paragraph, p object, and this to this append child method, we can append this text string, text node to this specific p element. Thus, this one is belonging to this p element, and that will be newly created and appended there like that. After that, that should be appended at the last child as a child, and that is the last child of this div. Thus here, div element, we can access that object, and we can append child p paragraph here that was created already as a last child. Then that will be created like that. Thus initially there was no third p paragraph, but just due to this JavaScript we can create and append, and we can show here. Okay, this one is explaining more in detail about that. You can refer to that. Similarly, we can insert before. Instead of this append child, we can use this insert before method. We can insert in front of that first child. We can insert before that using this insert before method. Here we should use that newly created element, and before this child, this one is the P1 element, first child. Initially that was the first child, and this pair P element newly created, that will be inserted before using this method. Thus we should provide these two parameters. First one is newly created P element, and the second one is the first element. Also removing, that is possible using this remove. Also this element that remove, that is possible to remove that. Remove a child using this one, that is possible. Remove a child, that may be better to remove child. Okay, you can report to that. We can remove or we can erase that element. Also replacing. To replace the child, we should provide this one. And initially this one was the let's look at this one. This is a paragraph, and that is being replaced with this new P paragraph element, and that is newly created. And with this replace child, we can do that, and we should provide two parameters. First one is the new element created, and second one is the initially it was the shown here, and that will be replaced. Thus we should provide these two parameters. Okay, and finally this one is the last chapter, and let's try to complete, and we can finish lecture number 12, part A. This is the last chapter for that. The HTML collection object, let's try to enlarge first. HTML collection object, the get element by a tag name method returns an HTML collection object because there may be many tags. ID name is unique. There's a single element object can be returned, but if we are using get element by tag name, then if usually there are many tag names, same tag names, that is the collection, the HTML collection object. And the collection is array-like list. And if we are using this P element, then if we are using many P elements, then this is the collection for that. And we can access each one by this index number. This seems like array, but it is not a pure array, even though we are using index number. We can use this property name length. Okay, let's look at this. Then we can use that length to iterate in the for loop. This one is showing the 3 paragraph here, my collection. This one is accessing P here. How many P pairs here? 3. There's this length means that my collection dot length. That is how many P tags here. We can access the number with that the length property. In that case, we can iterate in this for loop my collection dot length. Then we can go through. Okay, this one is comment about that. An HTML collection is not an array. An HTML collection may look like an array, but it is not pure array. Thus, that means we cannot use array methods like value of push or join, as we learned already, and those methods cannot be used because that is collection, and that is different from pure array. And okay, this one is the last chapter to finish today, and the next one is skipped one, and after that, in the lecture number 12, part B, we'll start this BOM. Let's look at this menu, and after that, let's finish today's lecture. And in the next lecture, we'll learn about this. That is called BOM, Browser Object Model.